Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer says the administration's goal is to have the Phase 1 trade deal with China complete by the time the Chile APEC summit comes later in the year. This comes as White House Trade Advisor Larry Kudlow expresses optimism over improved talks between the two countries. Here's what he told Fox Business earlier today.
My hunch is, and this is up to the president, ultimately, if the talks go well on Phase 1, there is a chance we can get those December tariffs off. I can't guarantee it. It's completely up to the president.
So there you go, guys. The December trade tariffs, which had been a sticking point, right, when we're talking about what China was saying about where Phase 1 would go, those were very important. And now we're hearing from Larry Kudlow that he's open to taking those off the table.
Well, I mean, I think what's important, though, is that we're not seeing huge market swings off of these kind of updates, if you will, on the trade talks. What's been interesting is that the rhetoric around whether or not this has been a partial trade deal or even a deal at all has kind of been, basically derailed ever since the day after they announced the Phase 1 tariffs, where China was basically saying, well, we still need to actually sign this thing first. So I think any sort of, kind of euphoria that existed over the possibility of this whole thing being resolved was over pretty quickly. And I think what we're realizing is that we're still pretty far away from a comprehensive trade deal because we have not even heard the details of whatever the Phase 2, Phase 3, and why not stop there, right? Phase 4 discussions on what might be going on in terms of resolving intellectual property protections, forced technology transfers, and the likes, not just the tariffs themselves.
Yeah, but I mean, we saw before when the other tariffs were taken off, when we're talking about the October tariffs that were suspended, there was a positive market reaction there. So you would think that any idea that the December tariffs would be taken off the table, granted he's not saying that that's what's actually going to happen here, but you would think that, to what you're saying, you would think that the market reaction would be maybe a little bit stronger than what we're seeing today.
Yeah, well, I think with the December tariffs, right, like there's nothing to say that they won't be kicked down the road yet again. Yeah. We've seen that in the past.
Yeah, and any idea that any reversal could happen, I guess, here too. But I think the reason why everyone is on edge when it comes to trade, obviously we've seen it move the markets before, but now more than ever we're seeing CEOs weigh in on the issue of trade as well. A new Goldman Sachs report finds American CEOs are spending less cash, with outflows on capital projects, research and development, and M&A declining by 6% this year. That's the sharpest drop since 2009, guys. So obviously, CEOs paying very close attention to where these trade talks could go.
Absolutely. This will not only impact the markets, but real people who are showing up to work and seeing the impact of those cuts.
Yeah, if we're talking about businesses not being able to put as much money to work, or certainly when we look at retail, what might happen there, and we talk about tariffs hitting come the holiday season as well. We saw President Trump balk at that idea before. So I'm not necessarily sure why that wouldn't be just as concerning as we get closer and closer to the holiday season.
Yeah, I mean, the Federal Reserve has pointed to this too, in that businesses of all sizes have been holding back on investment. I mean, if you're unsure about what's going to happen with this China trade deal, even if you aren't exposed to China and you're worried about what the spillover effects might be in the United States, if you're a small business on Main Street that doesn't even have that exposure, you're probably still wondering, maybe the macro conditions just don't look good, so I'm just going to pocket my money for right now and then see what happens down the road. And yeah, I think that's emblematic of the statistics that you're seeing now.
The other thing too, though, I mean, you've been tracking this because you were just down in D.C. for this, but we're looking at the latest figures to come from the International Monetary Fund. China's economic growth, they say, could fall below 6% next year, and that comes after China said its economy only grew 6% in the third quarter, and I say only with a little bit of a smile because a lot of people would be jealous of that growth. Yeah. But that was the slowest pace in nearly 30 years. Brian, you were there for the IMF's update when it comes to what growth might be across the globe, but what are your thoughts on how, tariffs, we talk about it obviously because we're all here in this country, but it's not just how it might impact the U.S., it's how it affects the overall global economy.
Yeah, and the IMF had a pretty gloomy outlook for 2019, saying that we might see the slowest pace of growth since the financial crisis, but they said that there should be a rebound in 2020, up to 3.4% from 3% in 2019, but they said that most of that gain in 2020 was going to be due to the emerging markets kind of hitting their foot on the gas pedal. But as far as the major advanced economies, the United States, Japan, China, they actually expect those economies to continue slowing. They think that in the United States it'll be down to 2.4%. So the story is that, okay, yeah, things in the world might look a little better in 2020. For the advanced economies, which are still being weighed by these trade developments, it's maybe not going to look so good.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.